There are places that remember, not with monuments or plaques. They remember with silence, thick and heavy as tar. One such place was, and perhaps still is, the tiny town of Millbridge, tucked away in the Appalachian Mountains of West Virginia. The story that follows did not make it to the newspapers. Instead, it was pieced together from paranormal enthusiast forums, missing person reports, and to the tapes found in the abandoned house. 1987. The Callahan family arrives in Millbridge. Father Elias, mother Sharon, and their 7-year-old daughter Lily. They were looking for privacy, cheap land, and a fresh start. They purchased an old house on the outskirts, right at the edge of a forest that the locals referred to as the Whispering Forest. The forest name was not derived from its foliage. It was because sometimes, on a windless night, a sound like the vague, indistinct whispers of dozens of voices would come from the thicket. The first oddities were small. Spoons disappeared. The walls, which Elias had painted beige, were covered by mourning with barely noticeable, as if emerging from the inside, yellow stains. Lily began to draw the same creatures, tall, thin, with fingers longer than the hands themselves. When asked who they were, she replied, "Those who live in the walls. They knock." Then Sharon stopped sleeping. She told her husband that she could hear someone walking down the hall, but not with their feet. It was as if something was crawling, brushing against the wall with a hard shell. Elias, a skeptic and an engineer, attributed it to the creaking of the old house and her imagination. The turning point came on the night of October 12. The power went out, not just in their house, but throughout Millbridge. And in this absolute, all-consuming darkness, broken only by the light of a kerosene lamp, they finally came into view. Lily was the first to see them through the window of her room. She didn't scream. She froze like a rabbit in front of a boa constrictor. Then, in a whisper, she said to her mother, "They're watching. And they don't have faces. Just holes." We only know what happened that night at the Callahan house from the tape of the tape recorder that Elias turned on, apparently in the hope of recording the noise so that he could prove to his wife that it was a game of the mind.
"Sharon, Lily, don't leave the room. I can hear it. It's not the wind. It's not the house. There's something here. In the attic, it's breathing hard. And it smells. God, it smells like wet earth and something old, rotten." "It's coming down the stairs. Sharon, take Lily and Ron to the basement. I'll try."
They entered. They're at home.
The next morning, electricity returned to Millbridge. The Callahan house was still there, but it was empty. There was no sign of a struggle, no blood. There were not even any personal belongings of the family. It's like they never existed. There were 3 spoons on the kitchen table, which were missing earlier, laid out in the form of a triangle, and on the living room floor, right on the wooden planks. Someone had scratched out deep furrows that formed into one repeating symbol, a spiral going to the center, to a point. The local sheriff chalked it up to the family running off without warning anyone. The case was closed, but the story of Millbridge didn't end there. Every few years, always on a moonless night, when the Whispering Forest is particularly foggy, the town's electricity goes out, and those rare daredevils who dare to look out of the window see, in the distance, on the edge of the wood, by the old road to the Callahan house, tall, incredibly thin silhouettes, motionless, looking at the sleeping town. And sometimes, if the wind is blowing from the forest, the residents hear more than just whispers. They hear the distant, barely audible sound of children laughing, barely distinguishable from the natural noises, and the same voice as on the tape. speaking softly in an unknown language with guttural, clicking sounds. It is said that the Callahan house still stands, and that if you get close enough to him on a moonless night, you can see a reflection in the dark windows, not of yourself, but of someone's long, broken shadows flickering in the rooms, and also that in one of the walls of the children's bedroom. If you put your ear to it, you can still hear a quiet, desperate pounding, a knock that no one can hear anymore, or almost no one. Sleep well. Just don't listen to the night sounds, especially if you live in an old house, and especially if your spoons suddenly start disappearing.